The definition of insanity. Insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I present to you Manchester United. Ladies and gentlemen, I did not want to do this video, mainly because I've done enough videos on Manchester United recently. I don't need to do another one. However, it's getting to a level here that I just got to talk about them. I've never done a video strictly on Manchester United, the football club. I've talked about the players, even the manager. But as a club, I've never really delved into it. And that's because, well, it's been done 1,000 times before. But hey, that never stopped me. And also because we have hit over a decade now since Sir Alex Ferguson left the club. And we've got a large amount of data to really collect here, to really give us the insanity. So, down below, tell me your thoughts on Manchester United. What do you think about them as a football club? And what do you think needs to change? Probably the ownership. There is going to be some new ownership soon. It's looking likely. Man United are entering a key transitional point and they need to nail this, otherwise nothing will ever change. Now, of course, who am I? I'm a random. I do not have the answers, but I'm sorry, I don't know what to say here. Smash a like button. Let's try to hit 3,000 likes. Thank you all so much for loving the channel. Subscribe. We are so close to 400,000 subscribers. I hope to hit it by the end of the year, so please help me out. And 15% off all items on my own design company, mazzoladesigns.co.uk. Link is at the top of the description. The best gifts for Christmas for yourself, your friends, your loved ones, for pretty much any club in the world, and especially Manchester United Prince. Link down below. And yeah, let's get into it. So, why do I call Manchester United the definition of insanity? You've played Far Cry 3, right? Okay, at least you have heard of Far Cry 3. As we are now entering into the second season, deep into a Manchester United's manager's tenure, we are already seeing the same recycled articles being put out. It is always the second season where the cracks start to form, and usually the third kills them off. If you just type up the cycle of Man United on Google, you will find the following: hire a new manager, make 3 or 4 signings they want, get Champions League, make no signings and release a search for a director of football article, get safe because of lack of reinforcements, and then sack the manager for poor performance. Or how about this one? Sack the manager, appoint new manager, sign players overpriced to say we backed the manager, finish in top 4, take the money at the club every year and let it rot with no infrastructure and $1 billion of debt. Second season, let down the manager, don't get him his priorities, just B or C options, as we have UCL football, and then start underperforming and the fan base turning on a manager, and then you sack him again. This has happened for pretty much every manager. Erik ten Hag, despite being the fastest manager to 50 wins in United's history, I believe, which by no means is something to be underestimated, he is still under unbelievable pressure. Despite winning a good amount of their recent games, they aren't by any means convincing, each one of them being incredibly scrappy, beating Brentford but by 2 mad comebacks in the 90th minute by Scott McTominay, beating Sheffield United, again by a late goal by Diego Dallo, losing to City in an embarrassing fashion, being completely outclassed at home, but then they beat Fulham away, which they scored a last minute winner, and then they beat Luton at home 1-0. They beat Luton 1-0 at home. I mean, it's 4 wins and 5, so fair play, but by no means is it giving fans a lot of hope. And throughout this, of course, many losses in the Cups or in the Champions Leagues like Copenhagen, like Newcastle, and also like Galatasaray at home. And with United currently being in 6th place and already forming a gap between the rest of the pack, it looks like the cycle may continue again. But that's where we're at right now. Let's go into the details. Why is Ten Hag under pressure? 3 key things. Number 1, transfers. Erik Ten Hag has been given the reins, so to say, to get quite a few amount of players into the club. This includes high expensive signings such as Antony, Lisandro Martinez, Casemiro, Malacia, Eriksen, and in this new season, Højlund, Mason Mount, and Onana, and Amrabat too. Now, how many of the players I just listed would you say are successful signings? Some of them you may say, well, they deserve some time. Antony, 95 million euro. It's not like he was paid for 40, 50, and he's not exactly reached expectations. Casemiro had a great season last year. However, for 70 million euros, people are concerned the fact that he already may be losing his legs in his 2nd year of his tenure. Lisandro Martinez, you could say, is probably a good enough success and sadly is injured right now, and Malacia is a backup left back this season. Højlund and Onana for a good amount of money, but they still deserve time. However, Mason Mount is a strange one, as he spent 64 million euro and he's not even a starter. So why would he spend that much money on him in the first place? It's a strange one, because the main concern is when they signed him, where was he going to play? And to this day, in November, I still don't think anyone knows exactly where he's meant to play in a system. And that leads me on to number 2, system. In the Premier League, at the top elite clubs especially, you have a system, a playing style. You know before you even watch them play exactly what they're going to do. When Erik Ten Hag came to Old Trafford, there was an expectation that he was going to try to replicate the playing style, the expansive, almost tiki-taka style of football that they played at Ajax, with attacking football, and basically unlock the players to release them and to have complete creative freedom. And he's been given players that he's quite well aware of. I mean, Antony, Onana, Lisandro Martinez, Malacia, players that he's very well aware of. He can't say that he's not brought in players that he knows, players that you would say are probably his players. Erik Ten Hag last month said that he will never be able to replicate the style of football he oversaw at Ajax with this current Manchester United team, despite having 4 or 5 players in the team that he brought in personally. He vowed to bring in a proactive, brave, and adventurous style that belongs to the culture of Manchester United. However, he's currently playing a lot more direct, and he's been trying to turn United into a transitional team. However, when you compare Erik Ten Hag United when he's been at the job for a year and a half and not really still having a real clear direct style of play, when you compare him to Ange at Tottenham Hotspur, you can already tell within the first 2-3 weeks that his style of play was already ingrained, and as we're seeing now, is flourishing at a rate that no one could really have ever imagined. Now, is this a honeymoon period? Maybe, I don't know. Confidence does mean a lot, and confidence is something that United does not have. And also, injuries do play a factor, I cannot lie. They are missing at stages a large amount of their back 4, and of course, by all means, injuries are a difference, but every team has them. And key factor number 3, controversy. Now, this isn't directly Ten Hag's fault, and this is why I feel almost bad for him. Man United is just, in my opinion, an impossible job, a cursed club, and I said this in a video even way early this year, saying that if Ten Hag cannot succeed at United, then I don't think anyone can. United in the past are well known into having the players almost being bigger than the club, having control of the club, and Ten Hag being much more of an authoritarian, that he can really put in a stamp on the club, saying these are the standards that you will perform to. And since he's been in the club, it has been non-stop chaos. If it's Cristiano Ronaldo, with the entire saga going back and forth when he first came in, if it's of course behind the scenes of obviously Mason that he already knew of when he entered the job, and in recent times Jadon Sancho and dealing with that, and so many other things as well, including other Glazers protests week in, week out. For every 6, 7, 8 weeks of somewhat peaceful and even maybe some happiness at the club, there will be another 20 weeks of non-stop chaos. I will go into the previous tenure, but I want to drive into the Ten Hag point here. This is not all Ten Hag's fault. The problem is that he's becoming part of a problem that he's being suffocated into. Yes, his transfers have not been great. Antony for €95 million is not exactly a real amazing piece of business. But I don't want to meme here, but this is Manchester United, okay? As what Roy Keane and all these pundits say. They're not wrong. Manchester United is the biggest team in England. Of course, if you're a Liverpool fan, you would disagree, but I mean, quantifiably across the entire world and even in England, people joke around saying that the biggest club in London is Man United because there's probably more people supporting United in London than anyone else. In the last 10 years, since Sir Alex left, they have entered 10 years of mediocrity off the pitch and on the pitch, which, since Fergie left, set a culture of greed, ill discipline, indecision and uncertainty that runs throughout the entire club, from the top office to the pitch. So, here lies the question. Where did this all start? Well, I've got to say the dirty word, okay? The word that you can't really say without there being 1,000 different ideas and opinions on them. The Glazers. The Glazers took over back in 2005, which some people may find surprising if they didn't research enough. This fact alone turns people who are kind of on the outside thinking, well, the Glazers can't be that bad because they had Sir Alex then and he won many trophies in that time period. But that's kind of not the point. They already entered the club with already a culture put in place under Sir Alex that was already working on its own merits. They didn't really need to do anything, and despite them having a large amount of money themselves, Man United is potentially the biggest club in the world, commercially anyway, especially in this time period. So a lot of money that they spend is created from their own sponsorships, marketing. They spend money that they earn. This is the key detail that any United fan will tell you. When a neutral says, oh, you blame the Glazers, however they give you money. You spent £1 billion since Fergie left and you still blame the Glazers. What's wrong with you? But where did that money come from? It's not the Glazers. What they will tell you instantly is that they are not using their own money. They are using the club's money, the money that the club earns by being the biggest club in the world. And to be fair, are they the biggest club in the world? I mean, some may say yes, but I would still say it's between Barcelona or Real Madrid. And please do not forget as well, one key detail is that ever since the Glazers came in, they have quantifiably, by the balance sheets, took out over 1.1 billion out of the football club. So not only are they not putting their money in, but they're also taking the money out. I know that I sound like a United fan myself, and you may call me boring because I'm saying what they've always said, but there's a reason why. And I was like you if you believe that they're just finding an excuse and blaming the Glazers for everything. And I get why it seems that way, but they really are not good for the club, like quantifiably. And look, the signs were there when they first joined, and they were protests even at Old Trafford, even when they were good winning the trophies. You can find this online, it's quite easy to find out. So the idea that United fans are only against the Glazers because they're losing is false, as they were always protesting against them, even when they were winning trophies under Fergie. And if you don't believe me, then Google it. Actually, Google this. The origins of the FC United of Manchester. Look up the reasons why, and it gives you a good reason of why the Glazers out movement have always been a thing ever since they first took the reins at Old Trafford. Why? You may say, well, one key reason was how they got the club in the first place. In 2005, they completed a £790 million takeover of Manchester United. However, of that 790 million, only 270 million was of their own money. The rest was borrowed against the club, instantly putting Manchester United, that before were not in any debt, in £500 million worth of debt. The club instantly was in debt because of the Glazers, and since 1992 and 2005, they doubled the size of Old Trafford to one that holds 75,000 fans, and ever since they've joined, they have not implemented any changes or improvements to not just a stadium or the training facilities ever since. Old Trafford was seen as a shining light in English football culture, even more than Wembley at the time period when he first joined. one of the most iconic grounds becoming a crumbling mess, and people think this is just people being overzealous or just going over the top, but many articles, hundreds, can be found about the state of the stadium, rusting and rotting around the ground, mice being found inside the stadium, the leaky roof has been brought up 1,000 times, and even more frustratingly, £200 million were meant to be put towards renovation of the stadium, in which was rejected. This was meant to be in February of 2021 and would ideally get it to expand to 90,000 people. This of course would take time and money, and they decided otherwise. And then there's Carrington, a once state-of-the-art training centre, has quickly become just mediocre in comparison to rivals. I mean, compare Carrington to Leicester City, for example. I mean, it cannot be any different. Even players that have gone from United to other clubs, for example, Reading, a player called Charlie Savage went from United to Reading, and he said that he would put the Reading training ground on par with United at the minute. This was all brought up when Ronaldo did his interview with Piers Morgan, saying that nothing has changed since Ferguson's retirement. And as he went on to say that the Glazers are not footballing people, and they do not know or understand the sport and what it means to be Manchester United. And I cannot lie, even I have got no skin in this game. I am not part of this. I'm just a Burnley fan. I respect United for what they've done and ruined mine and everyone's childhoods, but United should be more than this. Think about it. Look back to the 2000s and the 90s. Ryan Giggs, Eric Cantona, Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, even the likes of Carlos Tevez, Berbatov, footballers, ballers, true artists of the game. They were the standard. They are the standard of English football. Hence why they won title after title after title, and they shaped the game to what it is. Until a certain point. Here lies the definition of insanity. Ever since Fergie, who was a perfect manager at the perfect time, every new manager, every new player that comes in has the weight of Fergie and the success and the legacy at United on their shoulders, and for the large majority it buries them. The media attention, a constant barrage of just chaos from either outside or within. Of course, many times in the past we've had players come out and leak information from within its own training ground. Player power being a very common theme, and if you look at their previous managers, I mean, they've all kind of led down the same line. We can leave Ralph Rangnick because, I mean, I forget that he was even there, so he's not really part of it. He's just ignoring. So Ollie, right? Ollie came in to be just a temporary manager after Jose Mourinho got sacked, who wasn't meant to really be there, but just to do the job and kind of just settle the ship and to keep it afloat. And he did a very decent job when he first joined, and he made United feel like United again, that they relied largely on breaking teams on the counter with their pace, the likes of Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood at the time, and this worked quite well against especially top level teams when they actually were able to really drop deep and hit them on the break. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was always destined to fail. People forget how good Ole was in that first caretaker spell. He won his first 8 games in charge. Solskjaer was one of them, one of their own, and he was popular with the staff, popular with the players, and popular with the fans, but he never really had that edge to him to really make him a United manager, to really go to that elite level. There were players that he trusted and players that he did not trust. I remember very well there was an entire saga on Donny van der Beek, who everyone was demanding that he must play, and he just never really played and was clearly very nervous to really play him. Next year, he continued and got them into the top 4. That was his first full season, and in his second full season, finishing second place. Of course, not really anywhere in a title fight with City, but a second place finish was seen as not a success, but definitely a massive improvement compared to what United have been used to in previous years. And then came the third full season in 21-22, in which they started crashing down with 5 wins and 5 losses in his first 12 games. What about Mourinho? Well, Mourinho was always seen to be the one to really bring United back to being United, us against the world, a similar mentality that he had at Chelsea that made him so successful, being solid at the back and being pragmatic in almost every single game and doing whatever it takes to get the win. However, if you are concerned about the weight of Man United and the media suffocating a player, then imagine having Jose Mourinho as your manager and the media speculation around it. Yeah, it was a recipe for disaster looking back on it. He joined United in the 16-17 season alongside the likes of Paul Pogba being brought in, and it felt like the new era of United. And his first year, there were some signs there that they could be onto something. Also, don't forget Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and they won the Carabao Cup, and also they won the Europa League in his first year. And despite not being in the top 4 in that year, winning the Europa League clinched them Champions League qualification. It is spent relatively big on the likes of Romelu Lukaku from Everton, Matic, Lindelof and Alexis Sanchez, and this got United to a second place finish in what Jose Mourinho labelled as a massive achievement. And then came the third season where the money that they thought they would have had seemingly wasn't there, and they only really got 2 signings of any real note in Fred and Diogo Dalot, and that was it. And there is no surprise that, of course, Mourinho got sacked in that season. Of course, there's also Louis van Gaal that had a interesting 2 seasons at the club. First year, Louis van Gaal, the likes of Angel Di Maria, Luke Shaw, and Herrera, finishing in a top 4, getting Champions League football, and then in the second year, just falling out of the top 4 by goal difference up against Man City. A fall-off period by December made it really tough for them in the rest of the season. And then there's Moyes as well, but I kind of feel bad for Moyes because really he was always going to fail. Once you come off the back of Sir Alex, no matter who it was, you were always going to fail. So we go back to Ten Hag now, and where are we at? Well, there are factors to say why Ten Hag should be given a chance. There is a unrelenting injury crisis at the club, multiple off-field controversies and distractions, and uncertainty over the club's ownership for the future. The pressure is growing, but what other choice does he or the players have? Who would replace him? Elite level proven managers don't really swap one job for another, especially one which already has such a cursed chalice, so to say. By sacking Ten Hag, you will only be continuing the cycle of insanity and not making it any better. In my opinion, I don't think really any manager can get success at United until the Glazers are completely gone, and if this new ownership is really up to the task, and that is still a big if. Jim Ratcliffe, of course, is the man that is looking like he's taking the reins after the Qatar bid was deemed unsuccessful. Irrelevant of your opinions on Qatar ownership or not at United, that is definitely one opportunity that could be looked back on as a missed opportunity, as realistically that was always seen as the best option for the club for success. Erik Ten Hag is not the problem. He's just becoming part of the problem, and the problems are many. Tell me your thoughts down below on United, and until the Glazers go, the cycle of insanity at United will always continue. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.